If you've ever ended a workday or work week completely exhausted, but can't really point out how you moved your fundraising forward, you may be caught in the fundraising busy work trap. And it's really common for leaders, fundraisers, and even marketers to be stuck in this cycle of busy. You are putting the hours in, but the results aren't matching up to the sweat. Because the truth is that working harder doesn't mean you're raising more. Putting more time in doesn't always equate more funding or more impact. If it did, the person with the longest hours put in and the biggest to-do list would have the best, most largest funded organization. And that is not how the world works. We know that, right? Today, we're unpacking why we default to busy work when the brave work feels hard. When the real leadership is about being decisive and taking courageous action that moves the mission forward, not just clogging and filling the calendar. So you can work an 8-hour day, a 10-hour day, and feel totally wiped out. There's meetings and check-ins and Slacks and planning sessions and grant drafts and Canva designs and social media posts and sponsorship decks and all the things. And it is work. It feels like work, but it doesn't always mean it's productive. Psychologist Adam Grant calls this cognitive comfort. Right? Cognitive comfort. We gravitate towards what feels manageable and measurable and honestly accessible and doable. Things you're familiar with, or maybe even things that feel fun. You like to tinker in Canva, go there. You're used to applying for grants, go there, right? But that work, that comfort is actually keeping your funding stuck. That's why you can spend a whole day working and feel like, damn, I didn't move the needle forward at all. And yet you feel depleted. You feel burnt out. That busyness does look like progress, right? It does look like I did stuff. I was in meetings. I took notes. I did all the things. But it's really just like wearing a Fitbit, right? So imagine you're on a track in a Fitbit, right? You're clocking steps in, but you didn't really go anywhere. So you physically worked, right? But you didn't actually go anywhere versus putting on your Fitbit, leaving your house and walking to your favorite restaurant, right? That walk ends, you're at your favorite restaurant, you're meeting up with friends, right? That has an end game. So this is what I call death by 1,000 paper cuts, because every single low, small ROI task that feels productive in isolation together though compounds, and that drains your focus and your energy. It's bringing you from one task to another task. That task switching, of course, has a cost. You're running from that one project to another, from meetings, interruptions, emails, drafts, brainstorms, but none of it is actually connected or driving significant revenue. You've built a calendar that's full instead of a strong campaign. So I don't mean this episode to make you feel bad. I mean this episode to illuminate and shine a light on what you're doing that isn't actually getting you closer to your goals, and permission to stop doing it. Permission to stop doing it, and support to take action another way. So what is the solution here? What do we do instead? Real progress doesn't actually come from activity. It comes from decisive, aligned action. You can't spreadsheet your way to courage. Listen, if we could, we would, but we can't. You cannot spreadsheet your way and Canva your way to a fully funded, growing organization. So brave leaders don't wait for the perfect timing, the perfect words, or the perfect level of confidence. They move with that aligned clarity, that aligned action, not that like frenzied, frantic task switching and chaos. So the opposite of busy work isn't laziness. It's focused. It's courageous action. And the best news I have for you is you're actually going to save a few hours a week when you switch to this instead. You actually get your time back. Adam Grant often talks about how procrastination often disguises itself as preparation. It's like the stuck in the pre-planning mode. And that's what's happening here. You're preparing instead of deciding. So how do you make that shift? You can ask yourself, what's one brave thing I'm avoiding by staying busy, by searching for new grants, by tinkering with an event idea that really has no proven ROI. We had a client recently in the club who had kind of an event idea plunked on her lap. And she came to coaching, and I'm so glad she did, because where we landed was at best, this event raises a couple $1,000. and takes her off of her year-end campaign significantly. To raise that couple $1,000 costs her signature fundraiser, taking her away from donor calls, taking her away from really building out the campaign she's been working towards, because then suddenly she's got to plan this brand new event she hadn't planned on, right? And so you really have to go, does this just sound like a fun idea? Does this sound like something I feel bad saying no to, right? Is this a boundary issue, or is this a higher ROI event that I actually want to do? And for her, it was something she needed to say no to so she could double down on multiple 5-figure gifts, right? And that's the piece. That's the piece. We're like, God, this busy work could have doubled her hours a week. And I'm so glad it didn't. What I told her is, that's a hard 2K. That is a hard $2,000 to make. It seems like there's an easier way to net $2,000. You with me? And she was like, yes, I'm totally with you. So the next piece is identifying one thing that will actually move your mission forward, and do that first. And again, that first thing probably isn't something that feels innately easy. It might require you to pick up a phone. It might require you to leave a lapsed donor a message. It might require you to write the appeal letter. You've been kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this right now, right? It might require you to follow up with a board member that said they would help. It's time to get their help. Let the rest fall away, even if it feels uncomfortable. Even if you have to tell the person who thought the event was such a great idea, hey, we're not doing it. Love the idea. It's not going to fit in this calendar year. So one of my clients spent weeks. She felt like she had to create a sponsorship deck, because that's a great way to bring in 5-6 figures of revenue, right? Sponsorships, right? So she comes and she's like, I want deck ideas, colors, and I want to know what to go with the pitch deck, right? She had, researching ideas for what should go in the sponsorship deck and all the different levels of which we call the levels. Guys, let's zoom out for a second. She didn't have one single prospect for sponsorships. Right. And so we looked at it and we're like, who are you reaching out to with this deck? Who are you promoting? Are there even meetings booked for this? What is the value to the sponsor? She didn't have answers to any of those questions. So we stopped. We stopped that frenzied, right, action, right? And we instead said, let's reallocate your time. Let's do 5 outreach calls instead of 5 deck revisions, right? That's how you bring in 5 figures of funding very, very quickly. That brave action, moving away from like thinking about a sponsorship deck or a pitch deck, and instead doing the uncomfortable one, produced significant breakthrough. And it brought her time back, right? It brought her time back, because that clarity, that courage will raise more than Canva ever will. And you're talking to, I'm throwing Canva under the bus here. But I like Canva. I like Canva. But again, you know what it's like. Choose the thing that you can tinker with. You're like, ooh, I'll try that font. I'll try that color. That is not a good use of your time, right? And so same for you if you're kind of stuck on the, like, let me research another grant. Let me research another funder, right? And you may be thinking, okay, so if I stop doing all of this busy stuff, everything will fall apart. Right? Everything will fall apart. You're saying I shouldn't research. You're saying I shouldn't tinker. You're saying we don't need sponsors. You're saying we don't need this. And in fact, it won't fall apart. In fact, most of it was never holding things together. Again, it was holding your calendar together to make your calendar appear very, very full and busy, which it was. Right? It's the same thing I see in the corporate world. I'm not in the corporate world, thank God, but I can through the window look. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you having so many meetings and getting any work done? Anyone in the corporate world's like, my God, the amount of meetings, right? It's like, why are we all having meetings? This could have been an email. Why are we all using 8 hours a day? And 80% of those hours are just sitting on meetings. Not a good use of time. It's okay to have less meetings and to actually get into action mode. So the real magic happens when you stop managing those appearances, right? And start moving with purpose. It's not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things with the right plan and support. So what is busyness? I remember listening to, I don't know, it was probably a decade ago, maybe reading a book or listening to something. And it was like this thing we all say, how are you? What have you been up to? Oh, things are really busy. It's like we say it before we even mean it, right? It's just filler. And in a way, that's what busyness is. It's just filler. Busy work feels safe. Bravery feels risky. okay. It's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to feel different because you're literally expanding. If you want your income, your donations to expand, you have to expand first. You have to rise to that occasion. Busy work keeps you stagnant. And the other one, bravery, that's what creates the momentum. Brene Brown's research on leadership shows that clear is kind and unclear is unkind, right? So being very clear on what your deliverables are, what you expect your team to do, what their deliverables are. So when she's managing her team, she has this prompt, what does done look like? So instead of having a vague deliverable, they know to ask her, okay, Brene, what does done look like? And vice versa, when she's coaching people, what does done look like? So people are very clear, what is the deliverable here? And that applies how you lead your time, your energy, and your decisions. Because when you lack that clarity, and again, you're just kind of jumping, task hopping, you default to busy. And that busy has a low bottom line, a low ROI, and it leaves you burnt out, right? Because your brain is tired at the end of the day because you weren't like, I got this shit done. Instead, you're like, I jumped around everywhere and I feel exhausted, right? So you can be well funded and work fewer hours, but it does require boundaries. I'm going to say no to this event. I'm going to say no to this well-meaning board member. I'm going to say no to this meeting. I cannot attend this meeting, right? I'm going to say no because I have donor calls I need to make. Boundaries, bravery, and support. That's brave leadership. And I think the bravery and the boundaries are very hard to do by yourself. That's why I love the support piece. That's why I love coaching so much. Because when you're in a group of of people who are like-minded, who are doing this work too, you feel supported, you feel understood, you feel known. Right? I've had those seasons too, where my day was full, but my results were flat. I get it. I work with organizations who come to me in the same place, right? They check all the boxes. Nothing new is happening, but we're busy, right? So once I learned to trade busy for brave, everything changed. That's what I help my clients do inside my programs. You learn how to make decisions quickly. You're decisive. You're brave. You're making those brave moves that create real momentum, not just action for action's sake. Because when the brave work feels hard, you will default to busy work. You will like catapult your way back to, let me just search for some more grants. We haven't gotten any grants in the last 6 months, but I'll just keep searching, right? Let me apply for 12 more grants, but these are all restricted and for low dollars and don't actually meet the criteria, right? That type of work. So unless you have the coaching, the structure, the tools, the system, it's really hard to do this alone. So remember, busyness doesn't make you brave. It's just busyness. It's just clutter in your schedule. It might make you feel safe, but that safety is a lie because it's getting you further away from your goal. You're in that Fitbit just circling the track versus going to where you want to go, right? Going to a specific destination. Bravery is what moves that mission. Bravery is what moves the mission. This is your invitation to step out of busy and into brave, to stop filling your days just to fill them, to go, jumping around and task hopping and start funding your dreams. If you want to do that with guidance and inside a system that helps you focus on what to do, which gives you the system, the tools, the templates, and group coaching support, I highly recommend joining one of my programs. We have the Sprint method that is designed for solo shop EDs and founders who are learning how to raise their first 100K and 200K and beyond, right? And then we have the Purpose and Profit Club that is for scaling teams, marketers, and fundraisers and leaders to sync up, to stop spinning their wheels and to start scaling. You can go to the show notes to reach out for more information. I'll see you in the next one. Go do that brave thing today.